welcome my colleague, Carol Kerper. She's Student Access Services at Harrisburg and Virtual. Carol is here with two of her students who are going to provide an opportunity for you to hear about what current students using accommodations experience at HACC. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you, Vicki. I'm glad to be here, and I'm here with two of my students that I've worked with for a couple of years, Kayla Schenk and Caitlin Hoskins. I think we'll start by having Caitlin and Kayla introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about, what they're doing at HACC. Kayla, would you like to start?
Sure. Hi, my name is Kayla. I am a business major at HACC in Harrisburg and Virtual right now. But my plans for graduation is continuing my entrepreneurship with my own photography business. So I've been bettering my education through HACC.
Caitlin?
So I've been coming to HACC since spring 2019. I did early graduation from high school, and it's been very crazy with my degree, but I'm a dual education major, early childhood with special ed, and I've decided to minor in psychology when I do transfer. And yeah.
Thanks for sharing. I'm going to start by asking you a couple questions. Certainly, if people in the audience have questions that they'd like to ask of our students, please feel free to put them in chat. Let me start by asking, when you started college, what was your biggest fear about going to college? Was it a needless fear? In other words, was it something that you easily overcame, or was it something a little more challenging?
I think for me, in high school, I didn't have the greatest experience with my teachers understanding my accommodations. And it was very frustrating to always be advocating for myself and not being understood. But when I came to HACC, I quickly realized how accommodating they are for my accommodations, and how the professors all knew about my accommodations and what was going to be needed to make sure that my education was put first. So yeah, I was quickly blown away by HACC's accommodations.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Kayla. Caitlin, how about you?
It's not like it's always just been something for me where I always want to make sure I have everything ready before the start of class. And that was my worry throughout all of high school, even still now, but that's very easily resolved. I can easily find the teacher's info for my class, and I can email them ahead of time and say, hey, I'm going to be your student in this class. Could you kind of give me an idea of what we'll be learning? Maybe if you have like a syllabus that you could, like a rough copy of a syllabus, because that's something I do need so I can plan what I'm doing. And tell them, hey, you might be getting my accommodations soon. If we could set up a meeting, because that's something you do want to do when your accommodations are sent out to teachers, is to get in touch with your teachers, because they won't get in touch with you. At least I haven't had any that got in touch with me to talk about the accommodations and how they will be implemented into that class, because they might be implemented a little differently depending on the type of class.
Great. Have either of you used any of the support services at HACC, like the tutoring or career services?
Yes, I have used the tutoring, especially for my math. I'm not the greatest at math or accounting, so I've definitely used them quite often, and they are wonderful.
Is that easy to use, Kayla?
Yeah,
Is it easy to set up?
It's really easy to set up, and it's honestly, it's very self-explanatory. And also the professors walk you through if you would like a tutor and such like that. So they always hold information as well. So it's very accessible.
Great. Caitlin, how about you?
I have used tutoring. I use tutoring mainly for my English. Whenever I have an English class, that's the only reason I usually go to a tutor. And before COVID, it was pretty easy to get in. And then before they changed to this new system, I could find exactly who I wanted. And because I had this favorite person in fall of 2020 who I always loved to go to. She was amazing. And it took me a second to get used to the new system that they implemented. But now you can also it's very easy to make an appointment with tutoring if you need it. And that has been very helpful. So you can really pick who you see since
Wonderful.
the changes have been made, but it's still very easy to use. But you still have that choice to make an appointment with if you know there's a specific person you want to work with. And I think I've used something else, but I definitely know tutoring was the one I've used.
Great. Ladies, what would you tell your high school self now that you've had a year or two going to college?
Okay, so what I would say is basically the first day of class every single semester of every single year that you're going to be at HAC is so overwhelming, and it's okay. Like, I go into class and I get all these assignments shoved at me for the entire year for about 5 classes or 4 classes or how many you're taking. And it is really overwhelming. And at first I saw it and I thought, wow, this is going to be really impossible. But once you go through it and once you plan it out and put it in a planner and just like really look at what you have, it is manageable and you can do it. It's just that the first day of class is always going to be the roughest. So I wish I would have known that, because I thought that right when I got into HAC, I was going to be very overwhelmed, but it does get better.
Thank you. Caitlin, how about you?
I'm thinking about it. I think because I did not have a great high school experience, I've been enjoying my experience as a college student much more so. It's more freeing and you're not really tied down. So if you have one issue with a professor, you can know, okay, well, I definitely don't want to take this professor again. Or if you had a good experience with a professor, you can take, if they teach that same class. And for education, that does happen where a lot of the teachers teach different courses, but it's still the same teacher. And that's very useful. And to know that if you didn't have a good high school experience and your it's just something you're not fond of, like when you get to HAC or any, well, at least with HAC experience, that they do help with your accommodations and they do help in getting you settled. I did have an easier time since my mom is a professor at HAC. So I lucked out in that department. But I think even if she wasn't, there's still a lot of support that could help me. And there was a lot of support that helped me when my mom didn't know, because she doesn't know everything. No one knows everything.
That's
and
true.
So it was easy to find the right people, at least to me, to get a hold of to really help.
Did you find that it was useful to register with Student Access Services? Is that helpful to you during your college career?
Yes, it was probably the only thing or the only way that I got by. I'm so grateful that I advocated for myself and knew that I did need accommodations and it's okay to have accommodations. And I recognized that with myself, and I went full force into HAC knowing that I wanted accommodations. And if I didn't take accommodations, I would have been so overwhelmed with just a lot. And it was just very helpful all in all, like even without the accommodations, just knowing that there was a support system that understood my accommodations and validated my accommodations.
Yeah, I think it was pretty easy. It was in 2019. And I'm very lucky for my accommodations. And actually just last semester, I was in a class and I'm like, something's not working for me. I'm having trouble. And so I emailed Carol, because she's the person I see. And I told her, hey, I think I need this accommodation if it's possible. And it was, and we've implemented that. And that's helped me a lot with other classes. It was a test where I work better with hard copy tests. And because I was in an English class and I'm like, I'm having trouble following along. I needed that visual highlighting, that circling, the crossing out like you do on a paper test. And it was implemented like within a week or two. We got that changed, and that was set for the rest of my semesters.
Yeah, that's something that we really value, is that students don't always know the accommodations that they need right when they start college. So we can always amend the accommodation plan as you go through your college career.
There was a comment in the section in the chat. Did anyone have accommodations in high school that were not available in college? For me, I had even more accommodations than, because it was a struggle throughout all of high school, and when we got to HAC, and it was much more easy to get accommodations to me. For me, it was easier to have set up. I got even more than what my high school provided for me, and it was easier for me to really focus and get my bearings in college.
Kayla, do you have anything to add?
I think the only thing that I didn't receive, which we talked about earlier, was just the word bank and like limiting the amount of bubbles that we could fill in, or like whatever, like A, B, C, D, which honestly, like with the extra time and like double timed in most of the classes that I did take, it really was not that big of an issue. You just have to take your time, and yeah, it wasn't that big of an issue though at all.
How did you go about choosing a major when you came to HAC? And if you wouldn't mind sharing, are you still in the same major as you selected when you first came to college?
Okay, so when I first came to college, I was actually a photography major. And I'm not saying anything about the photography classes that I took because they were amazing. It just wasn't for me. And I do have my own photography business already. So I wanted to further educate myself in more so of like the marketing and the management and like all that kind of stuff. So I just decided that it was best for me to vendor off into a different degree, which was great because I learned a lot more than I thought that I could. And yeah, so it's okay to change your degree. And I love that I changed my degree.
Caitlin, how did you go about choosing your major?
So for the longest time, I knew I wanted to do something with children. And so I always thought of like maybe being a therapist, being a teacher. And I want to support students. I want to help them get through school so they have a better experience than I did. And that's always been a passion of mine. So I went into education. I originally went into a dual program for special ed and elementary. Then I soon switched to early care, which is an associate's. And then I realized, well, this isn't as frustrating as it was before. I just want to go full course ahead. And I went back to the dual degree, which it was very easy in education to switch. And just recently, like I've said, I've added a minor because career services, that was the other one. I've used the career services recently because I'm not fully set on being a teacher since I've not had a chance to be in the classroom because of COVID. But I definitely know for me, I like one-on-one experiences. And so I've messed around with the idea of maybe being a guidance counselor, something in the education that's not a teacher, and having a minor in psychology is very beneficial for when you go for a counseling or advising degree, if that's something I want to do in the long run. And why not take it when I have the chance and I'm young and able-minded to just go ahead and do it.
Great ideas. Was anything in college different from what you expected it to be?
I think for me, it's media like really takes a toll on the college stigma. Like I thought it was going to be super just drama and just everything was not going to go as planned, like, you know, like the college movies and stuff like that. But I quickly realized how kind the professors, at least my professors, were. And they were just so genuine and able to help me and wanting to make sure that I succeed instead of fail. So I think for me, it was just like changing over from the high school experience with accommodations and then going into college. That was honestly like the biggest change overall for me. And yeah, I just really appreciated that.
Yes, because it was more freeing and I had more of what I wanted to do. And you really have leeway. For me, I've only been full-time twice, but I've been here for a total of 6 semesters, taken at least 2 or 3 courses a semester.
Well, and you started as a high school student, correct? Did you?
I graduated early.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yes, I graduated in January of 19 and went straight into college. I wish they would have given me my high school degree at that point because I'm like, I'm done. I'm moving on to bigger, better things in my life. But I had, of course, wait until everyone else in my class graduated. And like in the movies, like they have like these I think that's the term, parties. And then I'm thinking, oh wait, Hack is a community college. And so there's nothing like that. And then so I still kind of wonder if really 4-year colleges are like that, like how they are portrayed in the movies. And I sort of hope they aren't because there's like a lot of trouble that can get going on at those. And I'm like, I don't need that.
Tell me about your experiences with other students. Are all the students recent high school grads, or what are other community college students like?
So for me, well, for most of my classes, I actually had a wide range of people. So I ended up becoming best friends with a girl who was, I think, a year younger than me, and I didn't even know it. I thought she was my age. And it just kind of goes like that. You kind of just forget. And it's also nice because everyone's on the same level as you, even though if they're older, it's okay. Like there was some people that were like 30 years old, 40 years old in my classes, especially in my photography courses. And you kind of just forget. It doesn't really hit you. But yeah, you kind of just start to become friends with everyone, which is really nice.
I've had a range of ages for my normal classes, like my gen ed classes. I've had a mix so like at the time I was like 18. And so I had I was usually the youngest in my class during the springtime because I was just out of high school, but I've had ages up to 40s, 50s, and I know my mom has had a 60-year-old, I believe, in her foundational studies class, which is a beginner class.
Mm-hmm.
And so it also proves it's never too late to go to college, especially if you want to do something different with your life, because you might have done great with what you've previously done, but you want to have a change of pace maybe, and it's never too late to start college for sure. It's definitely one of the biggest things I would take from that.
I know sometimes in high school, students feel like there's a stigma to having an IEP. Do you feel that way in college? Is there any stigma to having an accommodation plan?
Not at all. When I was in high school, I was so embarrassed. Like I would have to pick up my paper, walk out the class, and sit on the ground outside in the hallway and write down all my answers to the test. And it was so embarrassing because everyone would walk past me, seeing me like right in the hallway, and it just was embarrassing to me. But anyways, like with Hack, it is so nice because you have like a room that you can go to work, or they allow you to come after the class to sometimes work. It just depends on the professor. And like I said before, like extra time. And it's very accommodating. And sometimes you don't even have to come to the class because the professor already gives the paper to the accommodation center, and then you just take the test in the other room. So you don't even have to come to class to like leave and be embarrassed or whatever you want to say with that. But yeah, honestly, like I was never embarrassed. It was definitely a big change from high school. And you also have to remember that if that's going to better your education, then that's what you got to do. So
Caitlin, do you have anything to add?
I don't go just stating, hey, I have accommodations, this is why. I just keep I keep that not, because there's no reason for other students to really know about that.
Right.
Because if it's not a big deal, but I also don't see a reason to just go sharing that information when it's about me. And that's a decision for you. There's no, like, I'm not trying to like dissuade you. If you want to tell people, perfectly okay. For me though, it's not something I just want to go around talking about. But I am very thankful for accommodations because they've helped me so much with my classes, especially getting alternate texts. That's also been a really big thing. And to be honest, if you can get anything online, it's really easy. And if you're searching for like maybe a word, you can just hit Control F, which is control find, which is finding, type in the word and hit enter. And then you can search for that word in the book. If you remember reading it and you're like, I remember learning about something and I want to refresh my brain, it makes life so much easier. And so
Awesome tip.
Also having an alternate, yes, that's very great, but also that it can read to you then once you have a virtual version.
Right.
For me, I need to read, I need to see, I needed audio. I need a mix of everything. That's the best way I learn. So it's very helpful. And
yeah,
so
I agree with that.
I don't feel bad about having accommodations. It's just not something I go around sharing because, like I said again, it's about me. I want people to, because some people can't get past that, hey, this person has accommodations. Not everyone can get past that. And I want to be seen as for me, not a person with accommodations, even though it's completely fine. Not everyone sees it that way, which is a shame. Because, like, if you knew how much help it was, you wouldn't be thinking this.